Folks, you were Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about I'm just using to sort of springboard off that article by O'Keefe Media, that piece where they were talking to, or one of the O'Keefe Media operatives was talking to an operative from Big Finance. I think it was like BlackRock or Vanguard or one of those. And the guy was talking about how the price of bribing senior political office holders in order to get outcomes and legislation and so on favourable to big finance. Now, I don't think anyone was under any illusion that there's an army of well-paid lobbyists rampaging the length and breadth of Washington, D.C., or for that matter, any other capital city. But one imagined that the senators and the office holders would at least go out for a waterfront property or something. Around the world consulting trip for their 18-year-old daughter that involves a lot of shopping trips in exotic locations. But the claim was, I think, that you could buy a senator for $10,000. Now, I don't know if that's $10,000 per line item, like per vote. Is it $10,000 for the year? Is it $10,000 for the day? Or what exactly is the trade there? I'm assuming that it means you want a senator to vote a certain way on a certain issue, and they want, $10,000 is enough to secure their vote, which still seems rather cheap to me. I suppose it depends what it is, I guess. There's really, when you look at things like bribery and corruption and quid pro quo and or even the reverse, for threatening somebody with something dark and sinister from their past, and you threaten to expose it and expose them, and if they don't do what you want, and or there's again the patronage of you put your brother and sister into your wife or your husband into some cozy job. But in terms of favours and I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, those type of things, there's a blatant corruption, as in handing someone an envelope with money in it, is the sort of cruder, vulgar end of the scale. But there's many other forms of corruption to go on. Now, in the West, where corruption was, not that it didn't happen, it did, but compared to, and again, as I've mentioned a million times, I've done a huge amount of business traveling. The West was squeaky clean compared to pretty much everywhere else in the world, where corruption is just a way of life. To exist day to day, you have to bribe people all the fucking time, and they're all tin pot little bureaucrats. Especially in places like India, they're terrible for that. They're tin pot bureaucrats, but only if you slip them a few bucks will they relax the rules for you. And they can't not do it. It's just in their blood, it seems. Even second generation here in the West, they still seem to sort of gravitate towards that way of doing things. I've known Western people, business people who've gone to live in third world countries, and I catch up with them 2 or 3 years later, and they're as corrupt as the locals. And I'll point that out to them. Hey, I had no idea, Billy Bob, you were this, you're into this. Hey, what happened? And they just sort of look at, a little bit guilty and sheepish, and just say, look, that's just how it is. That's just how the world is here. You have to accept that and sort of go with the flow. Okay, fine. So I just want to look at this sort of generically, because it's important that we understand that there's been a massive influx of people from the third world where bribery and corruption and paying bribes it's all they know, it's all they understand. They don't comprehend any form of merit and independent impartiality as we understand it. Anything you want, you just have to bribe somebody. If you happen to have the money and the contacts to do it, then fine. If you can get, so you go to a teacher and say, well, I want you to give my kid A grade passes in the exams. The teacher might say, well, hey, your kid's a D student. Well, I don't care. How much will it cost for you to do A grade? $100,000 done. Here's the 100,000, and I want the A grades. Now, technically, the teacher and the briber have broken the law, but no one's going to do anything. But the briber can say, look, if you don't deliver what I want, I'll tell them that you solicited bribes from me, that sort of thing. I don't think it would end well for either of them. It'd be high risk, but that's how things are done in places like China and India. You're from a prestigious brand name family in India, and you want your son to go to the most prestigious university, and you want them to get summa cum laude. You want them to get the pass of the passes and the creme de la creme of the marks. Then you bribe somebody for that, and that's just how the world is. And I've experienced this sort of up front, where you're in a third world country and you've brought a whole lot of technical engineering equipment with you, and you need to exhibit it maybe at a trade show or show it to a potential customer, and these sort of things, and it gets caught up in customs. They just can't get it through. The paperwork's been lost, and there's all these sorts of problems, and they know that you need it by a certain date, and so you've got to go to an agent or someone who understands how it all works, and you say, look, how much will it cost? $1,000 done, and you have to do that. Now that guy invoices you for consulting services, so your hands are clean. But the reality is that you've just paid a fucking bribe, because without it, you'd never see your equipment. I mean, it could be months. It could be months sort of tied up there, and may come out in pieces if you don't. And you get horror stories. These consultants tell you, well, you may not see it for months, and if you're particularly irritated or annoyed them, maybe someone's going to take a hammer to it, or it's going to end up, being damaged in something, dropped from the crane and so on. So really, you can't not do it. Another instance, I was in another third world country, and I've mentioned this one previously, and you have to have, in this particular country, you have to have 6 months life left on your passport. So if you've got like a 10-year passport, you've got 9.5 years is the validity, really, in other countries too, not just this one. But I arrived the day before the passport went into that final 6 months, but I left on the day that final 6 months began. So on the technicality that, no, I had the flight out already booked, so it wasn't like there was an issue. I didn't have a ticket or something like that. That flight was booked and so on. So on the just using the technicality that I was going to be one day into that 6 months, they said, oh, well, you can't come into the country. They checked first, do you have important business meetings? Yes, I do. Oh, well, it's going to be very difficult. We have to send you back now to the country you came from. Mr. Smith, that's going to be very expensive for you. It means you'll miss your meetings. I'm sure it'll be very difficult, and you don't need that aggravation. You'll get in trouble with your employer. That sort of thing. They had it all down pat. They were pretty good, and so they demanded a bribe. The only way you either pay a bribe or we send you back. What's it going to be? And they hustle you into a room. They all take off their badges, and there's certainly a lot of overemployment there. There must have been fucking 5 of them in the room. And the suave briber dude, and he was pretty. I mean, he must have done it a million times before. And he says, "How much money have you got?" And I'm like, this is it. I know where this one's going. and so I said I had like $50. So he said 75, and done. And so he opened this really thick book, which had the inside sort of cut out of it, and in the middle of this book was US dollars, Deutschmarks, fucking US pound, British pounds, euros. There was everything in this fucking thing, and so he just nodded towards the book, and then he held the visa stamp over my passport, and as soon as the money landed in the in the book, he stamped the passport like it was simultaneous. Again, very rehearsed sort of thing. And then he closed me quite ominously, and the others came around me, which rather scared me, by the way. But he said, "Look, you've just bribed a government official, and that's 20 years imprisonment. So if you tell anyone what's happened, all our witnesses, you're surrounded by witnesses here, they're going to say that you bribed us, not the other way around. And if you want to spend 20 years in a cockroach-infested prison, you go right ahead, Mr. Smith." I'm not telling a soul. And the point is, I couldn't get out of the place quick enough, and it was only with great reluctance that I ever went back, and only with an escort and this sort of thing. So they don't achieve anything, these corrupt assholes. Anyway, the briberies are how it is, but because we've had all these people coming into the West, all these people where the only way they understand the world is through bribery and corruption, then they in turn have corrupted us. And I get it here. There was a Chinese company that said, "Look, we'll give you some business, but you have to agree to sponsor my sister from China to bring her out here for a job, and you have to pay her $100,000 a year. She's not going to turn up. You just have to pay her, and that's the only way we're going to give you this gig." And it was brazen. And the guy, this superbly well dressed, clearly quite patrician Chinese guy. He wasn't a peasant or anything, but that was it. You want this business, this is what you have to do. And he had he just sort of looked on his face and said something was to the effect, "I'm not waiting all day. I need your decision now. We've got plenty of other people we can give it to." And maybe I just hesitated at that moment too long, so just turned and walked off, and that was it. But that's not uncommon now. I never used to encounter that. Now it's not uncommon. The only time that I was ever offered a bribe before that was by another one, and some Arabic guy who tried to do a bribe some years previous. But I've never had a white Anglo-Saxon person offer me a bribe. Now, there's different ways of looking at bribery and corruption. Now, I'll talk about how people who think they have power or do have power, they want to know if they're going to use you in some way, or gather people like you or you around them as like a cheer squad or some sort of a vanity crowd or something like that. They want to know that they own you, that you don't work for them and do as you're told. They own you, and they need to know that. It's very, very important to them. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Now, I've been tapped on the shoulder quite a number of times for jobs. "Hey, Billy Bob, do you want to come and work over here?" So I don't know, half a dozen or something. But it's always intrigued me. I'm sort of fairly straightforward, but saying, "Well, hey, Billy Bob, you want to come and work?" It's okay. Well, fine. What do you want me to do? How much do you want to pay me? What's the arrangement? What results do I have to achieve? Do I have to dig 10 holes in the road every day? What do I have to do? And that's the thing. Now, in the response, pretty much, I think every occasion, and sort of others besides, are like this, saying, when it comes to the money, you'll be taken care of. That's it. They won't say anything. You'll be taken care. You'll be looked after. I mean, what the fuck does that mean? Now, when you've got school fees and mortgages and car payments, that sort of thing, you need maybe something just a little bit more concrete than "you'll be looked after." But they demand that you accept things as an article of faith. You are my loyal servant now, and I am like a god, and I decree, and so on, and you must accept. And if you lack faith in me, then you lack faith in the universe, and I don't want you. You're of no use to me. That type of attitude. So I said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" We'll discuss it. It'll be commensurate with what we assess as your abilities. I mean, what the fuck does that mean? And this is pretty much how it is. Now, some go super overt. One guy I'm thinking of, I'd actually got the job in this place. He'd sort of sent me the letter and everything. And then he called up, I think it was the day before I was supposed to start, and he said, "I need to see you." And I said, "What about?" He said, "Well, we need to negotiate your employment conditions." And I said, "Well, we've already covered that. I've got it in writing from you." Well, no, in addition to that, we need to so I went to see him, and he went through the same thing. I need to know that I own you. I need you to know, and I need to know that you know that every benefit you get, or any anything you get as part of your package, is bestowed by me arbitrarily to you, and I can withdraw it at any time. You have no rights or employment conditions. All you have is what I'm prepared to let you have, and you need to know that, and you need to grovel to me accordingly. And I thought, wow, you've got to be kidding. So I sort of asked for clarification, and like what? Sort of, like we've already discussed this, haven't we? And so he said, look, because that role involved quite a bit of traveling. He said, look, I get to decide whether or not you travel coach class or business class. That's my decision. I get to decide whether or not you stay in a 5-star hotel or a 3.5-star hotel. I get to decide whether or not you're allowed to use all the hotel facilities, or whether or not you have to find a laundromat outside the hotel to do your laundry. I get to decide, I get to decide what car you get to hire, whether it's a nice car or some little shit box, or and so on and so forth. So he sort of made a point of, you're the office that you're going to sit in the office. I can give you a shitty office in the back of the floor, or I can give you a nice office with a view of the park. I can let you have a key to the executive washroom, or you've got to use the bathroom where the people who work in the warehouse are, and these sorts of things. And he made it fairly clear that and other things. And it got to the point of where he was sort of effectively engaging in intimidation, for example, or bullying, or whatever you want to call it. But for example, well, you can put in your expense account, but I can make sure that there's something wrong with it all the time, and we just don't pay it until I'm satisfied personally that your expense account is filled out correctly. That could take 2 or 3 months, or it could take 2 or 3 days. That's up to you. And so these sorts of things that are put forward by, in this case, the CEO. And I was aghast. I thought, how fucking insecure must you be if you've got to play this game? But this idea that this concept of ownership would be how the senators and the politicians are treated by the big lobbying firms. They need to know that they own these people, and they can maybe pay $10,000 for a decision. But also the senator's daughter is employed as a consultant, very well paid one, by some organisation that these big finance guys are controlling or have a controlling interest in. So the daughter, that may be the dumbest thing that ever exists, is getting a $500,000 a year gig, or the son is being sent to London as the star of the London office for some company, and so on and so forth. So the entire the senators or the politician, whoever's being bribed, almost doesn't matter who it is, their entire world is dependent on their willingness to deliver outcomes that their patrons, in this case the big finance guys that are paying the bribes, but their entire world is now dependent on these people, dependent on delivering what they want. So this is where the folks paying the bribes own this senator. The senator can't look sideways unless they do what they're told to do. They're employees, junior employees. If they meet the representative, the lobbyist or something, they'll be shouted at like they're children, finger wagged like little pathetic children. Hey, we pay for you to do what the fuck we want you to do, so fucking do it. Now, if the senator or the politician said, well, screw you, Jack, okay, then suddenly the daughter and the son are unemployed, and they're not, they're not going to get a job anywhere near that sort of money. They'll be working at fucking Starbucks or something. The senator is going to find that at the next election, there are going to be a number of candidates running against him who are very very generously funded. The senator can't win against that, and so on. So really, this idea that we need to own you, and I've had, coming back to myself again, I've had other instances where. I remember this guy I was sitting. He was a very rich Jewish guy actually, and he was the CEO of the business. His family had quite a large shareholding in it, and and he was he's very keen for me to come and work for him, and but he refused to talk about the job, what was needed, the money, what they're going to pay. He refused to go into any of that. No, you're coming to work for me. You are my boy. I own you, and whatever I get you to do is whatever I decide. It's got nothing to do with your accomplishments or achievements or this or that or what you will achieve or accomplish. You're here because it suits me to have you here, and that's it. And you must accept that is our arrangement. You're not here to perform and do a job. Maybe you get fired for not doing a job, but that's not why you're being brought in. You're being brought in for other reasons. Effectively, a vanity cheer squad like you'd have in some medieval fucking king or something like that, the emperor, where they've got all their jesters and their dwarves and all the sort of people, the court fool and so on, that is there just to entertain and stroke the vanity and so on of the king. And it's really that sort of thing. And all the guy was cared about. And I thought, why did you tap me on the fucking? And I'm thinking, it's going back a few years. Why the fuck did you tap me on the shoulder, get me to come in here when all you want me to do is grovel? That's it. I mean, why do that? Now, there's a couple of different things. Most of the senators and congressmen and so on in the United States, AOC and all these people, they're just. I mean, AOC was a part-time barmaid, for fuck's sake, and the height of employment for a couple of them never even had a job. Another one worked in a hotel front desk. So none of them could get a job that pays anywhere near what they're getting currently, not if it's based on merit. Now, when people have achieved things in their own right, as I had at that time, I tend to be less susceptible to bribes and less susceptible to that sort of thing, because I think, well, I can make it on my own. I can, by my own hard work and ingenuity, I can do okay. So if I can do better by coming here, then you need to tell me what it is you're going to do for me, because I can do okay as it is. So you need to. I didn't phrase it like this or even mention it, but you need to be able to put something on the table. Okay, Billy Bob, normally you'd make $100 and we're going to give you $250. Okay, now you're talking. Now I can quantify what you're going to do for me. So then I get to make the decision, do I want to roll around on the floor and grovel for $250? Because I can make 100 anyway. Now, someone else maybe only make 25 anyway, but I can make 100 in my own right. So if you put enough money in front of me and guarantee me some sort of a time frame, then I'll do the groveling. But otherwise, you're not giving me anything. Now, let's take a person that's got no talent or skill. They're lazy as fuck and they're stupid, as most of the politicians are. ARC and lots of they're much more easily bribed. They know that they can't do any good in their own right. They know that this is the only opportunity they're going to get to make any money or do anything worthwhile. The only way they can make any serious money is to be for sale to the highest bidder, and that's what they do. So it's much more easy to corrupt and bribe some useless idiot than it is to somebody who can achieve in their own right. So what we've got in the West anyway is the globalists through the party machinery, the Republican Party, Democrat Party. They've deliberately seeded vast numbers of politicians in there who are morons, who'd be lucky to earn even an average wage. Some of them are so fucking stupid. But once they're in that role and they're required to vote in a certain way or certain legislations or make certain public pronouncements and go out and go in front of the cameras and say, yeah, Russian collusion, definitely. And they're all paid for doing that. And they're paid whether it's handsomely or not, I don't know. At $10,000 a gig, you wouldn't get rich quicker than that. But anyway, it's more money than they would otherwise have got. So that's how it is. The more useless you are, the more susceptible you are to bribes and corruption. Also, it's more expensive to bribe a high achiever because they can already do okay on their own. So we need to understand this idea of monopolies, oligopolies, cartels, whether it be pharmaceuticals or big finance and so on. They have such vast resources at their disposal, financial resources at their disposal, that they can buy anyone they want to. And if the person gets in the way, they can make sure that there's some little frail waif of a girl's going to appear and with a torn blouse and say, "Oh, you tried to rape me." They can do all of those things, and have got the resources to do it. So when we look at bribery in its totality, that's the architecture of it. That someone will get a call saying, "Hi, Senator Jones, Senator Smith, whatever. We've noticed that your son's just leaving university. How do you think you're going?" "Oh, not so good. He's a very ordinary student." Well, we can talk to a few people and make sure that he comes out magna cum laude. You can? Well, so we can. We've got friends and we can talk to them, and we're happy to do that. And look, that vote that's coming up for the so and so, the such and such. We'd like that to pass. We think it would be excellent legislation, and we understand. We've just heard whispers that you're favourably disposed towards it, and we'd be very happy if that were the case. And of course we'll have a talk to our friends in the university. Now, straight away, even if you're a moron, you know how that's going to play out. They want you to vote for it, and they're going to. They don't give a fuck whether your idiot son or daughter comes out with a magna cum laude. They don't care. They can fix it and arrange it. Maybe they got to pay some bucks to somebody, but they get the outcome that they want. And this is the architecture of how it works, where outright bribes, patronage, favors, backhanders, under the tables, call it what you like. Little riggings here and fixings there. That's the general architecture of it. But now I think in the West, we've gone from a situation where that happened, but certainly quite rare on a relative world basis. We've now got to a stage where it's just how business is done. The idea that anything other than a handful of senators or congressmen make independent decisions in the interests of their citizens and voters, those days are long gone. We hope that we can return to them, but for now they're long gone. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.